Hello and welcome to TCKid Talks, an interview series featuring movers and shakers from the third culture and cross-cultural community. Today we have as our guest Lily Fouts, former TCKid Group Leader and creator of Travel Beyond Excuse. Lily, welcome to the show today. I'm so glad and humbled that you took time away from your adventures around the world to sit with us and just hang out with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Lily, you were a TCKid Group Leader. I wanted to ask how you came to know that you were a TCK to begin with. I know that you don't fit one of the traditional categories that TCKs are known for. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, yeah, I have a little bit of a different background. I did not grow up in a missionary family or in a military family or in a diplomat family or anything like the usual things that you think of when you think TCK. I actually was the child of a fugitive mother. So what we were doing is hiding out from an abusive father who had managed through questionable ethics to gain custody of us in court. Lots of lies and so forth. So in order to protect us, we ended up hiding out from him, and we were in Mexico for 5 years. So that's how I came to be a TCK. And I didn't learn what a TCK was until many years after back to the United States. I was speaking with a friend of mine, and I had noticed in my life that I connected especially well with other people who had traveled in their lifetimes, who had lived in different countries, but I didn't know that that was a thing. And this friend of mine who had grown up in Kenya was the first person to tell me about TCKs. So that was kind of an aha moment that I realized, oh, this really is something, and that's when I started watching out for TCK resources and things like that.
So interesting. And I know a lot of people out there, I have friends that didn't live in different countries, but they can completely relate to some of the experience that I tell them, and this was even before I found out I was a TCK, and I would tell them how I feel, and they said, I know exactly how you feel, that's how I feel. It's also, especially about that experience of not feeling that you just belong to one group, or sort of feeling like you don't completely belong anywhere, really. And also, right. And noticing that you're very sensitive to it when people aren't open-minded, or you're very sensitive to it when people are just stick to one identity. They don't try to bridge cultures,
Right.
or try anything new because it's not part of their one identity. And I think in Ruth Van Recken and Dave Pollock's book, I think there's no one likes categories, but they do connect the different intersections of different identities to the cross-culture kid identity and third culture kid identity, including people who grew up moving around so much under what's called a domestic TCK.
Yeah.
How did you come to be a TCKid Group Leader?
Well, after I found out that I was a TCK, like I said, I started looking out for TCK resources. And after I joined Facebook and discovered Facebook groups, I started searching for TCK groups. And I found a few, and I joined them and became active in some of the discussions and so forth. And of course, Bryce Sawyer was the developer of one of those groups way back when, and he was looking for leaders to be TCKid leaders. And I got in touch with him, and I said, well, I'm kind of interested in this. What does it take to be a TCK leader? And so he said, just organize events and so forth. And it sounded something I would really like to do. It'd give me a chance to connect with other TCKs in my area. So I decided to go for it, and I signed up and became a TCKid leader.
And this was before BuzzFeed was covering it. This was before anything else in social media was even talking about TCKs, correct?
This was in 2008, so it was kind of the early days of TCKid.
So interesting. And what were some of the highlights from being a TCKid Group Leader? What was really fun about it that you remember?
I think my favorite part was just connecting people, getting everybody together, and just sharing stories about these different places we lived, and telling jokes that only people that were multicultural or cross-cultural or TCKs would really get. And just having that camaraderie and having this tribe of people where we felt like, okay, these are people that get me so much better than the average people in our community. So it was just getting together, house, bring different foods from the different countries that we had experiences with, and it was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed getting people together and just having that time where we're with somebody that gets us.
And it's sometimes that's even that alone, that simple thing of being with someone that gets us can be taken for granted, because there's a lot of identities. Like, for example, if you live in the U.S., there's a lot of identity politics, right? And a lot of it wouldn't even be possible if there was no identity to begin with. And I think a lot of us TCKs felt like there was no identity that was announced for us until we actually did more research, or until someone came up with something that,
Yeah.
Growing Up Among Worlds book that was finally published after years of hard work and research. Without any of that happening, we wouldn't even know that there is an identity of third culture kid. That was actually formed in the late 1950s by a sociologist. A lot of that is taken for granted, and so the work you did as a third culture kid group leader is very valuable, because it is part of that journey that not a lot of people have resources for, or that it's part of that journey that was very invisible at that time. What do you do now, Lily?
Well, I've done a lot of things over the years, and but basically since getting married in 2011, I moved out of Colorado, and since then, of course, that's why I'm not a TC Kid leader anymore, because we moved. And we just move a lot for work and for fun. My husband's an electrician. He does contract work, and that work takes us all over the world, literally. We've done some work at the South Pole and all over the United States. So, and then when we're not traveling for work, we're traveling for fun. So we actually are homeless. We don't have an actual permanent house anywhere. And what I do is I have to find something that I can do remotely, because we do move so much. I can't find a traditional job anymore. So what I do is I'm developing a business that combines my background as a teacher, which is what my formal education was in, and excuse me, and my passion for traveling. So I'm kind of on this mission right now. What I'd really like to do is help 1,000 teachers travel the world. So there are yeah, I kind of have this goal. I was thinking, I want to quantify this, and so I decided, okay, I'm going to shoot for 1,000. I'd like to help 1,000 teachers who say, I'd really like to travel, but I'm on a teacher's salary. I can't afford to travel. And I want to show them ways that they can get out and travel and help them actually do it and make it a part of their lifestyle. So that's what I do now.
So interesting. And I know that a lot of people can relate to that, even non-teachers. I mean, I happen to be a teacher myself, and I understand a lot of the trends going on with education. The trend of a lot of colleges, at least in the United States, going more towards mostly adjunct professors, and that's changing the face of education itself. And it's also changing, the economy that teachers have to work with, their financial backing to do what they love doing. And before you started traveling, was there something about your lifestyle that didn't seem to fit the typical traveler's lifestyle?
Well, I've been, of course, I traveled around a lot as a fugitive child, but then, during college and so forth, didn't travel a whole lot outside of the United States. But from the time I graduated college and onwards, I've kind of been traveling off and on throughout my life, and even during the time I had a steady career where I was tied down with work obligations and a mortgage and car payments and student loans and all of that, I was traveling. So kind of one of the things that makes me different from the average traveler is, I think there's several things. One thing is I tend to, probably because I'm at TCK, I tend to connect with the locals pretty well. And in some cases, in most cases actually, I feel just as at home in foreign countries than I do in my own country of the United States, even if I've never been in that country before. For example, when I went to Romania, before I went, I worked really hard to try to learn a few phrases of Romanian and learn as much of the language as I could so that I could get by when I got there. And as soon as I got there, I just started talking to the people, using as much of my Romanian as I could. And I think more so than anybody else in my group, I was connecting with the local people. And I just felt at home there, even though I didn't really speak the language very well. I didn't know anybody. I just sort of felt at home there. And I
Yeah,
feel like that a lot of times when I travel.
I lived
Even
there
though
too.
you what?
I lived there too in Bucharest for a while. I was living there when at the tail end of my high school years, actually after I graduated from high school, and so I can relate to a little what you're saying. I think what years were you there?
In Romania, I was there in 2005, and it was just a
2005.
short volunteer trip. I was only there for less than 2 weeks, but I just felt right at home when I got there.
Yeah, and that's one thing about the TCK, like you said, we can feel at home anywhere because traveling itself is home to us, and being globally mobile is home to us. And when I was there, for example, it's so interesting how, as part of being globally mobile, we can actually be part of historic events that not everyone is directly exposed to. And I was there before and after the revolution, and it's so interesting how things can change. You know,
Yeah.
it'd be interesting to really compare notes. But this is one thing about a TCK, by the way, being able to just naturally, in conversations, being able to just learn from each other about common countries that we've all been to and comparing notes. I think that's always so much fun.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And so what else about your lifestyle did you have to sort of maybe rethink or think through different lenses in order for you to be able to be where you are right now, where you're traveling and being able to meet your goals of where you want to go?
There's, I think, different elements of planning out, what you want to do with your life and moving toward those goals. And then there's also a certain amount of serendipity or maybe luck or whatever that kind of plays into it too. I mean, in my particular case, I'm very fortunate that my husband has a job where, when he's working, we can save up quite a bit because my business, I've just started it. I'm still building it. It's not to the point where it's bringing in a lot yet, but so that's something that I'm working towards. And I think if I were not in a situation where I had somebody helping me, then I would probably still be moving in this direction, but I would probably be doing a lot more freelance work or something like that to bring in money while I built my business. So.
Do you always see yourself as a entrepreneur to be able to do what you do now with Travel Beyond Excuse?
Well, it kind of evolved over time, over a period of years, just reading about what different people have done and reading different books and things. The 4-hour work week was fairly instrumental in my thinking about online possibilities for work. However, I have had the desire to build my own business for many years, and actually I did have my own small business as a Spanish instructor for several years, where I was working with different companies, hospitals, factories, different places like that, and teaching their employees Spanish so that they could communicate with their Spanish-speaking customers and employees. So I had that as a small business for several years, which I did part-time in addition to my full-time job. So I kind of have seen myself as an entrepreneur for a while, but it's kind of evolved into more an online thing and less of an offline thing.
And I do hope that also encourages others who might feel like, well, I'm not getting any success. Maybe I don't have what it takes to be an entrepreneur. Maybe I don't have what it takes to run my own business. And I know a lot of TCKs must also face this question because a lot of us have the itchy feet. What is one thing you'd like to say to people who might think, this isn't working? Does it really take years and years of not giving up to fulfill your dreams?
Yeah, it does take time. There are very few cases of overnight success. Even things that might look like overnight success, you don't see the many years of preparation and research and learning and life experience that went before that. So anything that you do, it does take persistence. You do have to stick with it and be persistent over a long period of time before you'll start seeing results. And I'm at that point in my business right now where I try something, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. I tweak it, I try something else, and I just keep going until I find something that resonates with people, and then I do a little bit more of that and just keep experimenting. But it does take a lot of persistence.
And the same holds true for running nonprofit. I spent a lot of years in nonprofit before I started doing TCKid, and it's very true, especially for leaders out there who are TCKs, who have families and who are caregivers. It's just your success, I think, depends on how realistic you can make it, but also your success depends on you not giving up. And I believe, would you agree that maybe comparing ourselves to others isn't the big picture of everything, isn't the best way to compare our success?
In general, we need to find what works. What we do need to know is, or what we do need to do is look at what other people are doing that works and maybe model that. But I know there's another person in my industry that I really admire, another travel blogger who's just, started out from nothing like I did and has really done very well. And it's kind of easy for me to go, oh man, I wish I was like that, and really compare and beat myself up. I think that's non-productive. That's it's not very good to do that. I think what is productive is to say, what has that person done that's working, and how can I apply that principle to my own business? I think in that sense it's good. In the sense of comparing yourself to others, whether they're behind you or ahead of you, is not really a good way to go about it.
Exactly, because we're all our unique individual, and
Exactly.
I'm so thankful that actually you're sharing this now, because now TCKs have a role model to look to for travel blogging and making traveling something possible for other people.
Yeah, well.
Why do you think it's important to listen to the traveler in us?
Oh, well, I think that it's important to listen to the inner traveler because travel is really the best education there is, in my opinion. You can go to school and learn a lot of great things, but for many different areas of life, the travel experience that you get is going to be so valuable. It's going to help you relate to other people, other cultures. It gives you an idea of the world and the people in it and different regions and just so much. So I think if you don't listen to the traveler inside of you, your brain's going to kind of calcify, and you tend to become a little bit more set in your ways, maybe a little bit more opinionated, a little bit less open to learning. So I think it's important to listen to the traveler within you, be open to new experiences, be open to learning and seeing the world in different ways.
So basically what you're saying is that education, as a former teacher, education isn't complete unless you travel. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say so. And I encourage all the young people I know who are in high school and looking at college. I would say it's extremely beneficial for young people to travel. And this is one reason I want to get teachers to travel, because I want them to go back to their classrooms and impart their experience and their knowledge to their students, and hopefully encourage their students to travel more. And just be I want to get in with influential people like teachers and say, hey, travel is a really valuable education. Go do it. And I think, if young people get out and travel at least for a year before starting college, or if they're in college, if they can study abroad, it's going to give them opportunities and experiences that there's no classroom can replace.
Exactly. As a college professor myself, I know that a lot of and of course, all of us were students before we started teaching, right? And I, as a college professor, both as a teacher and a student, I know that a lot of the learning that I experienced was even through the conversations among students in the classroom, not just from the textbook. And so, can you imagine how valuable it would be to have conversations like that where the classroom is a different country, or a subway station and you're talking to, a group of people from 3 different countries, and that conversation that could just organically evolve out of a subway ride. It's so true that the world is a classroom in itself.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we close, Lily, I want to ask you to pose a challenge question to our audience and make it good.
Oh, okay. Well, the pressure's on. Make it good, huh? Okay. Well, yes, I do. I want to preface my challenge by saying that I believe that pretty much anybody can travel. If there's, maybe you're in a situation where you traveled a lot as a kid, but now you're tied down with a job and you feel like you can't travel, or maybe you still have the travel bug, and like me, and you're finding ways to do it or whatever. But I think pretty much everybody, if they really want to travel, if that's a priority in their life, they can do it. So my challenge is, there's this quote that basically says, forget about all the reasons why something may not work. You only need to find one reason why it will. So my challenge is, I would like you to think about a place that you're going to travel next. Maybe that is the country that you were in as a child, or maybe that is the country where your ancestors came from. You want to go connect with your roots, or maybe winter's coming and you want to escape the icy winter and go to some tropical island somewhere. But think about, where's your next travel going to be? And don't think about, oh, I wish I could go there. It would be nice to go there. No, think in terms of, how can I make this work? I just need to find one reason why this will work. So my challenge to you is, I've created a special blog post just for TCKid, and it's at travelbeyondexcuse.com/TCKid. So visit that website, and what I want you to do is, down at the bottom, I want you to tell me what place you're going to travel to next and one reason why it will work. And I'm going to read all of the comments that come in. I'm going to pick my very favorite comment, and I'm going to send the commenter a copy of the 4-Hour Workweek. This book was, this book was really fundamental and life-changing for me. It kind of got me on the path of thinking about maybe other options for work and so forth. Highly recommend the book. It's just full of good travel advice, good business advice, productivity advice. So if you haven't read it, I definitely recommend reading it. And so go ahead, go to that website, travelbeyondexcuse.com/TCKid. Tell me where you're going and why it's going to work. And I'm going to pick out my favorite comment. You get the book.
Awesome. There you have it, folks. That's your challenge for you. From Lily Fouts, creator of Travel Beyond Excuse. And I know we all have excuses out there, so no more excuses.
No more excuses. Bad, bad, bad. No excuses.
Especially teachers.
Right, exactly. Especially teachers. Hey, I've heard teachers say they don't have time to travel. I'm like, are you kidding me? Most people would kill for the summer. I know sometimes there are other responsibilities, continuing education classes or whatever, but come on, teachers have more vacation than most people do. So no excuses. No excuses.
No excuses. Well, thank you.
Yeah, and I don't care whether you're a teacher or something else. I think everybody needs to travel more. And, my classes are for everybody, but I'm really especially focusing on teachers. So
thank you, Lily, for taking the time to share with us today what you do now I also want to thank you for the work you did as a TCKid Group Leader. I believe Lily has a gift for us at the end of the interview that you'll see now. I just want to remind you all to smile because you have a tribe and to keep sharing your stories. This is Myra Dumapias signing off TCKid Talks.